One. We're live. This is the Rich Report, bringing you the richest content across entertainment. My name is Cameron Richardson, and joining me as always is Sean Clark. Sean, how are you doing? We have a Super Bowl set.
I am very happy with what Super Bowl is. We got a fresh face in the Super Bowl in the Cincinnati Bengals, pulling off one of the most shocking wins in postseason history, and them playing the Rams, a Super Bowl matchup that you would really only get after 10 years of a Madden franchise. So I cannot be happier, and I don't have a rooting interest, so it's gonna be a fun Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
And joining us today, Evan McNilia and Michael Manny on this lovely Monday. Gentlemen, what's up?
I'm excited. Bengals in the Super Bowl, good for Joe Burrow, and you know what? Good for Matthew Stafford too.
I'm more than excited to see Cooper Kupp one more game this season. He has been a joy all season, one of the prettiest men in football. Need more of him, need it in the Super Bowl.
No. We only talk about one beautiful man in the NFL, and that is Mr. Joe Burrow from Ohio, leading the Cincinnati Bengals to their first Super Bowl since 89, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, January
88 season.
Can we believe this, gentlemen? The Bengals, a team that we were laughing at because they couldn't win a playoff game, always found the way, even as favorites, to somehow fall apart. Then they lose to good old North Carolina legend TJ Yates one year when he was with the Texans.
That was the Texans' first playoff one.
Yeah, 2011. They also lost to the Chargers in 2013.
And here they are with head coach Zach Taylor, who we all thought, you know what, this guy isn't going to be doing much with Cincinnati. They'll be a 3-4 win team, and he'll be fired within 2 years. But here they are, and you could tell how much fun Zach Taylor is having as the head coach of this team when he was, I think it was during the overtime. It was during overtime when Eli Apple almost had the near interception. The man was smiling and just laughing it up, thinking, oh, wow, here we are in this moment in overtime in Arrowhead after trailing 18, and we got an opportunity to win this game. The Bengals were down 18 in this game. 18 to the Chiefs. Now, we've seen this comeback before in the matter of the Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota's great comeback in the wild card round against the Chiefs a couple of years ago. But we thought, okay, after the Bills and Chiefs are clicking on all cylinders. There's no way they could lose this AFC title game. The Bengals would give them a fight, but there's no way Kansas City loses. But Joe Burrow's a winner, you guys. This is a franchise changer. Joe Burrow, I mean, just within a matter of 4 years, under 4 years, 3 years of watching him, I mean, he's already grown into my favorite quarterback right now. And give it 2-3 more years, probably gonna be my favorite quarterback to ever live if he keeps up this talent and level of winning. But Sean, tell the people about this guy, because it started with LSU. We watched the LSU Texas game together. That's how I first met Sir Johnny Crane out of North Dakota. That was our first real hangout, and Joe Burrow has the insane play on 3rd and 17 against Texas to lift them in that game, and we all know what happens to LSU the rest of that season. For me to cheer for an SEC team is unfathomable because I am a Pac-12 guy until I die. I love that LSU team. That LSU team was the most fun I've ever had watching college football because of Joe Burrow and the insane amount of talent they had. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you name it. They were on that team. But Sean, just what is it about Joe Burrow that gives it this aura that he is that man? What makes him that winner?
Joe Burrow is what Baker Mayfield was hyped up to be. That is the best way I can sum up Joe Burrow. And yes, I agree. When you say that, rooting for an SEC team is unfathomable, I do agree because, yes, I am also a Pac-12 guy until I die as an SC fan. But yes, watching that 2019 LSU team, especially with the diehard LSU fan Johnny Green was an insane experience to say the least. And it was a blast. Yes. Even Johnny points out in our group chats. What if LSU doesn't convert that 3rd and 17 against Texas, where Joe Burrow escaped pressure, stepped up in the pocket and threaded a ball to Justin Jefferson, who ran all the way for a touchdown to seal that win in Austin? Because if LSU does not convert the 3rd and 17, Texas gets the ball back down 6. And with the way that game was going, I'm not sure LSU would have stopped Texas, because neither team could be stopped that night. It was an old-fashioned Texas shootout, just guns a-blazing. But ever since that game, Joe Burrow has been the guy, not just in college football, but now in the NFL. And what's crazy to think about is the guy tore his ACL a year ago. But we got to remember, the guy came into this season off of a major injury. Like, that is unfathomable to me. Like, I thought maybe Joe Burrow would do something like this, but maybe in 3 to 4 years. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl. What? Coming into this season, the Bengals hadn't even won a playoff game in my lifetime, and I'm almost 25 years old. And during that span, they had not won a playoff game. That the Bengals go from not winning a single playoff game to winning 3 in a row. 3 in a row. And the craziest thing about it is the fact that they are in the Super Bowl in his first full season as a starter. Because last year he got hurt on December 2nd, 2020. And I remember how every single one of us were devastated. You can imagine how devastated Johnny was when that happened. I don't think I need to describe his emotions when that happened, or just even my emotions. I was gut-wrenched to see a star like that suffer such a gruesome injury. Seriously, fix that stadium, Washington. And to come back from that, and we all thought, okay, the Bengals might be an 8-9, 9-8 team. They'll be a solid team this season. But AFC champions, beating Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead, beating Derrick Henry, and they survived against the Raiders. The Raiders put up a really good fight against them. Joe Burrow has that confidence that is unrivaled by really anybody. It's insane to me how confident he is. And the fact that he was able to shrug away the pressure, and the fact he's able to make all these huge plays and be a great leader in his first full season as a starter. Remember, the Bengals went 4-12 last season. And obviously that Jamar Chase pick over Penny Sewell was the right decision. There's no question about it. And that offensive line held up well. So Joe Burrow, confidence, being able to utilize his talent to the maximum, having the resilience to come back from a major injury, and to be that leader at such a young age, he has earned this Super Bowl. And I got to say, it has been a treat to watch him the last few years. And I can't wait to see what he does on the biggest stage. Regardless what happens, this Joe Burrow has proven to be that guy of all time.
Yeah, when I look at a team like Cincinnati, there's still a lot of untapped potential for this franchise, regardless of the result come 13 days from today. Cincinnati has a ton of potential left. They're still very thin on their offensive line in terms of talent. Their secondary is not great, but when you have an absolute winner, a winner matters. Having leadership matters the most, especially in the head coaching department, Arizona Cardinals. But you need an absolute winner. Joe Burrow just wins. It doesn't matter who he has on that team. Ever since he got that crackback block against UCF in, what was it, the Fiesta Bowl, right? It's turned him around. He was a changed man after that hit. And to think what Cincinnati can be if they start building their offensive line and get a better secondary. I mean, look, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati is going to be one hell of a circus for the next 5 to 10 years in the AFC. Evan, I don't know where the Chargers fit in there with Justin Herbert, but they're kind of like that 1B, the second tier. They're going to be around there with Justin Herbert. You just hope Justin Herbert keeps that talent level up. But those three are going to be the elite of the elite. But Evan, just add on to just what attracts us to Joe Burrow. Why are we so drawn in by this man?
I think it's just that winning mentality. Like Sean hit on a lot of it very well, but he's the type of dude who's going to go into a tight game or see his team down by a lot, as he proved in this AFC championship game. And he's going to go out there, give it his 110%, do whatever it takes to win, and come out with the win. He comes out of those tough fights with wins. He comes out on top with his cigar in mouth, puffing away in the locker room afterwards because he earned it. He is that MF. He is that dude. I think the biggest thing for me, you see in that game, I think when they were down by a bit, you start to see Joe Burrow start to get more mobile, something that isn't particularly his game plan. He started doing his best Patrick Mahomes impression to get his team back in that game. He started running around like there was no tomorrow. I mean, it's just not what he's known for, but in the moment where he needs to get it done in order to elevate his team to that next level, he does it, and he does it well. And who does that? I mean, Tom Brady is maybe the only other quarterback in history who has that ability to just do what needs to be done to get the win no matter the situation. And if Joe Burrow is showing that ability above Patrick Mahomes at this point, I think we need to start having the conversation. If Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes, if he's getting the Bengals, a team that was in the dumps just a couple of years ago, over the Chiefs and into the Super Bowl just 2 years into his career after tearing his ACL, is Joe Burrow more that dude than the man the Chiefs are paying $500 million? And I think the answer might be yes. He has that heart. He has that energy. He has that drive. Those unspoken things that only show themselves.
Does he have that power as well?
Moments.
You said he has drive. Does he have power as well?
Hey, drive, power. He has everything. I don't know. Joe Burrow is going to be special. And the fact that he's given Patrick Mahomes a run for his money this early into his career should worry the Chiefs with how much they're paying Patrick Mahomes, that because of the fact that they couldn't get it done despite all the guys that they currently have around him. The Bengals were able to get the job done. And I think that should scare the rest of the NFL because Joe Burrow is here to stay.
Michael, what changed in this game? What was the main catalyst that flipped the script? Because it looked like Kansas City was Kansas City throughout the whole first half, but there was that big 45-yard touchdown from Burrow to Samaje Perine, Big 12 legend, Oklahoma legend Samaje Perine. And then the Bengals got that goal line stop when Eli Apple tackled Tyreek Hill just short of the end zone to send it to halftime. Was that the overall change, or was it something that Cincinnati did defensively that just completely shut out Kansas City? I've never seen quite this flip from the Chiefs being the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes to only scoring 3 points and only getting that late field goal to send it to overtime. Just what happened to Kansas City in the second half?
Well, I think that you're right. To start off, I remember yesterday I sent a text in our group chat and I was like, "Oh, here we are again. We're back to Patrick Mahomes as a supernova that can't be stopped." And it was 21 to 3 and I thought, "Oh god, is this game over? Are the Chiefs just back to unstoppable?" But I think what it hinged on was that goal line stop, because you go into half 21 to 3, or you could go into half 28 to 3. which we've seen certain folks in the AFC come back from before, but we didn't know if Joe Burrow would be capable of that. But that was the start of it. And then in the second half, Tony Romo kept talking about this on the broadcast. It was something I noticed too, is that the Chiefs started to not play conservative, but play a little more safe. You saw a couple like lazy drop passes that you wouldn't usually see Chiefs receivers make, or passes that Mahomes just seemed a little hesitant on, and they just started to play it a little more safe with just the big lead that they had. And then the Cincinnati pass rush actually started to get back into the backfield. They had no sacks of Mahomes in their last matchup in Cincinnati, but then they finally started to get to him, even though Mahomes on a lot of these dropbacks, he had all the time in the world. It seemed like there was 8, 9, 10 seconds that he was running around in the pocket trying to find somebody. And the exclamation point was put on that where at the end of regulation, where he got hit and he fumbled it. They were knocking on the door of the end zone, but instead they had to settle for what was it, a 44-yarder? I don't remember the exact distance, but instead they had to settle for a field goal instead of knocking on the door of the end zone, which they were, because Mahomes lost like 17 yards on a sack. So Chiefs started to play it a little safe, and the Bengals dialed it up and got aggressive. It started with that touchdown to Pirine, and Joe Burrow is just, he's like, I don't want to compare Joe Burrow to Joe Montana because that's a lofty comparison, but Joe Burrow was Joe Cool in that second half. You never see the guy flustered. You never see the guy afraid. You never see, he just looks confident. He has that killer look in his eyes, like Tom Brady when he's down a big lead, and the TV broadcast will show him sitting on the bench, just sitting there with just the stoic, angry look on his face. That's the look that Joe Burrow has on his face. He just has that that certified killer mentality.
I want to mention that fourth quarter that final drive from Kansas City, because a lot of people, including Sean, who I was sitting next to for the entire game, said, Cincinnati, just let them score the touchdown. Just like Kansas City score, and you can, try to play back down 4 against Kansas City on the road. Do that. And I thought to myself, are y'all insane? Imagine it's one thing in the regular season when it's like, okay, one loss, at least we can try to get our offense back out there. In the AFC title game, when you are up 3, you are 30 seconds from a trip to the Super Bowl, you're going to tell your defense to stop doing what they are built for and what you signed them for. Hey, guys, if you see Samaje Perine if you see Clyde Edwards-Helaire go by you, just let him go by you. Don't try to tackle him. Just let him score and, be behind and trail by 4 and, expect magic from Joe Burrow. And I thought to myself just how asinine that was from a guy who says it's a team game and overtime rules shouldn't be changed. Sean Clark said, just let Kansas City score the touchdown. It was insane just to hear that and just be like, okay, defense, just let them score and get their free touchdown that will most likely win them the game. It makes no sense. It's like skipping a word problem, like an essay question. Like you get it's a final exam, 3 essay questions. You have to do all 3, but you just skip one of them because you're either too lazy or there's not enough time. And so you just do the other 2 and you skip one, and now you're stuck with pretty much a D because that's 2 out of 3. Sean, how you say it's a team game and now you're saying, oh, defense, just give them the touchdown. I'll wait, bud. Because what happened? Cincinnati played their defense. They got that 20-plus yard sack on Patrick Mahomes, and they had to send it to overtime. What do you got to say about that, Sean Clark, mister? Just let the offense score.
Well, hindsight's 20/20 for one, so I don't want to hear about the result. let's talk about the actual situation itself. First of all, I am far from the only one that said they should score. Even Tony Romo
I know I
suggested
said
that.
a whole lot of people did, but you were with me and said it. I heard you say it.
Oh, I know. I did say it. And obviously, we can sit here this morning and say, oh, that would have been terrible if they did. Yeah, of course, it's hindsight. So let's take out the hindsight and let's just look at the situation itself. The Chiefs had, what was it, 2nd and goal? Bengals had no timeouts a minute 20. It was at the 3-yard line. Almost everyone watching was thinking that the Chiefs were going to score. You can say that in hindsight. But come on.
Sorry, I believe in defenses more than other people do.
I mean, did you watch last week's game? Just saying. But anyways, let's say that the Chiefs just run the clock down to 40 seconds and then they score a touchdown on 3rd and goal. Suddenly, you have to score a touchdown with 40 seconds to go and no timeouts. It's much more doable when there's a minute and 20 seconds. So, obviously, there is a case to be made that they could have let him score. Obviously, hindsight, they still won the game. And kudos to the Bengals defense, who I think played one of the best second halves of any secondary and defensive line I've ever seen. But in that situation, I've legitimately have seen teams in the past do the exact same thing. In the 2006 AFC title game, the Patriots, let the Indianapolis Colts score with a minute to go so Tom Brady could get the ball back with a minute to go. If the Patriots had stopped them, Tom Brady would have gotten the ball back with 20 seconds. And we've seen that twice in the Super Bowl. The Patriots again, did it in the second New York Giants loss where they let Ahmad Bradshaw go into the end zone. So Tom Brady could get the ball back with a minute to go, which is about how much time there was in the Bengals game. The Green Bay Packers did this in Super Bowl 32 against the Denver Broncos, where they let Terrell Davis run into the end zone. That Super Bowl was played in San Diego. They just let Terrell Davis score. So Brett Favre, the back-to-back-to-back MVP, could get the ball back and go down the field. So there is a precedent for this situation. It is not a ridiculous, this has only happened one time. It has happened in the biggest stage in football, the Super Bowl, multiple times. So don't sit here and tell me that it's a preposterous idea when teams in the Super Bowl have done it in the past. Has it worked? Not necessarily, but it has happened. And there is a legit argument to be made that you could do that. Obviously, hindsight worked for the Bengals, but don't sit there and tell me that it's a preposterous idea. Go ahead,
Now,
Evan.
Michael Manny, we talked
Yeah.
a lot about overtime rules last Monday, but it seemed like that was negated because it's more rare than not that the team scores on the opening possession of overtime. So what's there to say about overtime rules now? Because it didn't come into effect yesterday.
Well, when the Chiefs won the coin toss, I'll admit I was sitting there like, oh, here we go again. This is it. Game over. GG Bengals. But did you guys hear how loud Arrowhead was when the Chiefs won the coin toss?
Yeah, I believe Brittany Matthews was spraying the champagne on the fans again before the game was even over.
Everybody in the stadium was screaming like they won the game because they won the coin toss. But the overtime rules still need some reworking. I'm not gonna beat around the bush there. But what I find more amazing is that we saw Patrick Mahomes throw 2 interceptions in a playoff game, one to a defensive lineman and one on a deep ball that was just kind of a miraculous tip drill to the defender after Eli Apple missed the interception. And after Eli Apple missed it, I was like, that was their chance. But no, they got another one. And the Bengals went right down, and Evan McPherson, who might all of a sudden be the greatest kicker in the world, the second coming of Adam Vinatieri. But I see your banner, Evan. And but it didn't come into play. It didn't come into play this week. You're right, Sean. Justin Tucker still does exist, but he's not in the playoffs this year. The overtime rule is still it didn't come into play this week. Chiefs didn't just go down and score again like I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, thought was going to happen when they won the coin toss. But this discussion isn't over. I'm still in favor of both teams getting the ball or something to that effect. Or like Evan's proposal that we talked about on the show after the Bills Chiefs games. I'd be in favor of something like that.
Look, I could talk about the Bengals winning all day, but we got to keep the ball rolling here. How about later in the afternoon yesterday, the LA Rams defending their home territory of SoFi Stadium in front of all 49er fans. It seems like it was about a 75-25 ratio of 49er fans. Not surprising considering the Rams don't even have a top 5 NFL fan base in Los Angeles. But hey, they defended their home territory. Now they're going to be the first team to host the NFC or a conference title game and the Super Bowl. Although, like I've said before, the Super Bowl doesn't actually count as a home game. Matthew Stafford. Look, as much as I despise the LA Rams, you've got to show love for Matthew Stafford. It is the most likable quarterback Super Bowl matchup we probably have ever had. I can't really think of a recent one. We all hated Tom Brady as a Patriot. I can't really think of a quarterback matchup where I'm like, I'd be happy for either guy. Now, granted, I'm cheering for the Bengals because I absolutely despise the Rams, but if the Rams were to unfortunately win the Super Bowl, at least we can say Matthew Stafford got his ring. But Sean, you had some vested interest in this game because you are a super 49er fan all of a sudden out of nowhere. Jimmy G'd. Nothing's really been impressive about the 49er offense. It's been the defense, it's been D'Amico Ryans, but sometimes the defense isn't enough to carry an entire team. Deebo Samuel and the 49er defense just isn't enough to carry the massive weight that is the struggles of Jimmy Garoppolo. Mina Kimes is on a vengeance tour today. Jeff Garcia, eat your heart out, you absolute bozo. Sean, did this just come down to Jimmy G being a third string quarterback playing as a starter for the 49ers?
I have to admit, it makes me sad to see basically Tom Brady's quarterback project continue to underperform on the biggest stage. That's honestly the biggest tragedy for me is that the Patriots quarterback project just continues to shrink and to take all this criticism, and yet many Patriot fans, not myself, I want to make it clear that in the mid 2010s, there's a lot of Patriot fans clamoring for them to just go with Jimmy G going forward. I was not one of those Patriot fans, but as a Patriots fan, I was wanting Jimmy G to succeed in San Francisco, obviously. But unfortunately, it's time to go. It's time to go. I don't want to see Jimmy G play another snap for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't really want to see Jimmy G play another snap in the NFL, period. Because he is the most aggravating quarterback ever, and there is clearly a ceiling that has been reached with Jimmy Garoppolo. He will win you games, sometimes in spite of Jimmy G. And plain and simple, he will not get it done when the opponent is another great quarterback. Yes, he beat Dak Prescott. What, you want a cookie or something? And he beat Aaron Rodgers, the most arrogant and selfish player in the entire NFL, who is the most unlikable quarterback because he doesn't understand a concept called friendship or family. Okay, those are two unknown concepts to Aaron Rodgers. Jimmy G just couldn't get it done. And it is now the Trey Lance era. Trey Lance will have a lot to work on. He was very raw. He did play decently in his Week 17 game against the Houston Texans with a deep ball, but the game simply came down to the fact that Matthew Stafford is a much better quarterback than Jimmy G. Cooper Kupp is the best wide receiver in the NFL. As Evan said at the beginning of the show, we get to see Cooper Kupp play one more time. That is also a blessing. Big Sky legend Cooper Kupp. So that's also pretty awesome. And the better team won last night. And Kyle Shanahan has another double-digit blown lead in the fourth quarter of a huge playoff game. And for the second time of those three, it was Jimmy G that was at fault. Jimmy G's probably going to be a quarterback elsewhere. Honestly, I will die on the inside if he's traded to a team like Miami, because Jimmy G playing twice against the Patriots would just destroy my soul. But at the same time, kudos to the LA Rams for picking up the victory. The fact that Matthew Stafford is in the Super Bowl is a win for all football fans. Cooper Kupp being in the Super Bowl is also a win for all NFL fans. And as a Colorado native, I can tell you that every single person in that state is happy to see Von Miller in another Super Bowl. I can tell you that for a fact. Because every Bronco fan that I've heard from is happy to see Von Miller in Super Bowl. Also, OBJ has turned his career around and he's in a Super Bowl. It's a good thing for the LA Rams. This Super Bowl, yes, Eric Weddle is in the Super Bowl as well, Evan. Charger legend Eric Weddle. So I am very happy with the Super Bowl matchup. To be completely honest, I wasn't really that upset when the 49ers lost, because I did want Matthew Stafford to succeed. I do like the Rams a lot. I get your beef with them, Cam, but I also I think the Rams are very likable from my perspective as well. And I am so excited to see Matthew Stafford play Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl.
Let's bring up the fact of who the Rams owner is and where city they play in right now.
I mean, the Rams were in LA in the 1940s and 50s.
Okay. That's enough out of you. Let's talk about Cooper Kupp's, upbringing into the NFL. I want to go back to 2016 with quarterback Gage Gubrud out of Eastern Washington against NEU. Eastern Washington beat NEU 50-35 in this game. Cooper Kupp had 12 receptions and 111 yards in that game. You know who else had 100 yards in that game for Eastern Washington? Sean, could you take a guess? Could you take a wild guess? Who else had 100 yards in that game receiving?
Besides Cooper Kupp,
this would be New England Patriots legend Kendrick Bourne. Also had 100 yards in that game for Eastern Washington.
Oh my God, I didn't know
Kendrick
that.
Bourne went to Eastern Washington.
I didn't even know you went to Eastern Washington, to be honest.
Yeah,
oh my
some
God.
legends out of Eastern Washington, but
love Kendrick Bourne.
Michael, what is it okay for Detroit Lions fans to sort of be de facto Rams fans in the matter that they get to watch the quarterback that sort of carried the city on his shoulders through all the turmoil for a decade, and to see him on this level? Should it be a celebration for Detroit Lions fans?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you guys have seen that video of the guy in the Stafford jersey jumping up and down during the divisional game against Tampa.
I FaceTime Hunter right after the game, and he was doing the same thing.
No, yeah, as he should, 100%. Matthew Stafford gave everything to the city of Detroit, and you guys were talking about it earlier. Yeah, there is, I can't remember a more likable quarterback matchup, because Matthew Stafford is not only a great guy, he is the toughest dude in the NFL, maybe. Just all he had to go through in 12 years in Detroit. After his first 2 years in the league, think about it. 2009, shoulder injury. He was hurt in 2010 too. 2011, he's 23 years old and leads the team to his first playoff appearance in decades, just a couple years after winning 0 games and 2 games. And a 5,000-yard season at that. He took that team to the playoffs 3 times when, more often than not, he didn't have a defense around him. He didn't have an offensive line around him. He didn't have a running game around him. He didn't have receivers around him, sans Megatron and, say, a couple years of like Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, maybe. He gave everything to the city of Detroit. He carried that team when there was absolutely nothing around him. He carried that organization to occasional respectability. Yeah, 100% the city of Detroit should be on the Stafford train.
I think it's going a little bit underrated, but let's not forget the contributions that Odell Beckham Jr. has made to the Rams since he was acquired. And, everyone wants to talk about Cooper Kupp. Would the Rams be in the Super Bowl without OBJ? Can we really say they would be in without? Because if you look at the LA's receiving, they're going to be without Tyler Higbee now as well, as he went down with a leg injury during yesterday. But him and Cooper Kupp, that 1-2 connection is obviously incredibly dangerous. But guys, people are not talking about Odell Beckham Jr. is going to the Super Bowl. If not the biggest star in the NFL over the last 5 years. Of course, a lot of people were clowning him about his tenure in Cleveland and some of his, attitude issues with the Giants and all that. But the man has, A+ talent. He's, in terms of just overall talent, he's probably the number 1 guy in the NFL. He just hasn't had those quarterbacks or those stable franchises to really set him up to succeed. But here he is with the LA Rams, and they're going to the Super Bowl. Evan, would the Rams be in the Super Bowl without OBJ?
Honestly, at this point in the season, especially because of the injuries that they had to the receiving room, I believe it was Robert Woods who went down the week following OBJ's arrival to the Rams. So I think OBJ's done a really good job at kind of becoming just another target for them when they've desperately needed it, because Cooper Kupp, as great as he is, as open as he always is, you need that second guy when they're double teaming, triple teaming Kupp, that 9 times out of 10 is going to get open downfield and threaten the other team and make them force them to have to cover 2 guys, and not just have the offense go through one person. And OBJ provides that really well for the Rams. This last game, he had over 100 receiving yards, which is huge. And I don't know if he'd done that yet with the Rams or when the last time he did that was. So that's a huge game for him. And if he's able to be that number 2 target in the Super Bowl, especially with Higbee going down, and he's a great target for the Rams, I think they have a chance here. But could the Rams have done it without him? I think that's an argument that could be had either way. I think the Rams are a great team with an amazing defense and would have been able to get the win. OBJ didn't even score in yesterday's game technically, although, like I said, he did very much help move the offense. So it's 50-50. I think he's a piece, though, that the Rams are going to appreciate having and are glad that they picked up ahead of the Super Bowl, just because of what he offers for the team as a down-the-field threat. He's a great route runner. He seems to be getting open more often. Again, he seems to be picking up the offense, which I'm sure isn't an easy one to learn, running under Sean McVay. So maybe the Rams make it without him, but he definitely helped their case. And, bringing in Von Miller as well in that trade deal was also huge. And I think he's been a huge defensive playmaker throughout this playoff run. So I think the Rams, it definitely, with them picking up Stafford, Miller, and OBJ all on shorter contracts, it was kind of, we got to get this done now. We got to go to the Super Bowl now. And just the fact that they were able to do it shows that bringing in those pieces was the right idea for them this year. And so, I think all the credit deserves to go to the Rams GM for executing those moves and orchestrating this kind of year where you keep bringing in pieces throughout the year to aid the team where they've kind of recognized they need extra help. And they've just done a really good job of that throughout the entire season of addressing their needs. And it got them to the Super Bowl. And now with Cam Akers healthy, after he tore his Achilles at the beginning of the season, I think the Rams got a really good shot here. I mean, we'll get into full game breakdown, the week of, and that'll be all fun and games, and we'll make our predictions then. But I really like what the Rams have going for them into this game.
Yeah, Michael also mentioned that Andrew Whitworth is going up against his former team in the Bengals for the Super Bowl. So that'll be an interesting little storyline there. But Michael, is there any sort of positive light you can find in this NFC title game? And anything to take away that could be positive on your end?
Making things really difficult, you know that?
Yeah.
But I'm Matthew Stafford. I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see him get to play on the big stage for the first time in his career. I really am. But and Cooper Kupp is a joy to watch. Even though he's on a division rival, he's a joy to watch, an absolute joy to watch. It's really amazing to see a big sky guy become a superstar like he has. And something I want to point out that I feel like not enough people are talking about. We talk all the time about Tom Brady's 44 years old and is still at the top of his game. Why aren't enough people talking about Andrew Whitworth is 40 and he's playing left tackle and he's still at the top of his game? Why are enough people not talking about how
His
incredible
offensive line
that
isn't
is?
sexy to these people. People don't know what a bad offensive line looks like until they lose their offensive line. Raiders.
Oh, trust me, I've seen some bad ones. But I feel like a storyline going into this game, not only Andrew Whitworth playing against his former team in the Bengals, where he was the anchor of that offensive line all these years. He is 40 years old and in the trenches dealing with the best pass rushers in the league the week after week at 40 years old. It's success we've never seen. Maybe guys like, I can think of like Bruce Matthews, who also played 2 decades in the league, or guys like that. But I feel like not enough people are talking about how amazing it is in the trenches. He's having the success he's having at the age he's having, the age he is, I guess I should say.
Well, gentlemen, before we had these conference championship games, we had a lot of news across the NFL, and the biggest one of them all, Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington of ESPN reported that Tom Brady was retiring. The greatest quarterback and player to ever walk the planet was no longer playing football again. That's what they said. Can't really mess that up. And then a couple hours later, it was, Tom Brady's camp was informing everybody that he hasn't made up his mind yet. So maybe he hasn't left the arena yet. Shefty, what are we doing here? This is not the first case of tomfoolery that we've seen from Adam Schefter this year. Not forget the whole Mr. Editor thing with Dan Snyder and the whole Washington email thing. Guys, let's say Tom Brady chooses not to retire and comes back. One, does Schefter lose his credibility? And 2, should he be gone from ESPN?
I think it's questionable. I think it's debatable. We're all journalism students here, and what's one of the main things and most important things that we're taught? It doesn't matter if you're first. It matters that you're right. So the fact that they wanted to get this report out is understandable. This is huge news, and being first and being timely with your news is always important. But at the same time, You have to be sure, you have to be verified, you have to know. And for a player like Tom Brady, I believe he should get to announce his own retirement. I don't think any media insider should have the break on Brady unless they've already arranged it with where Brady's like, yeah, I'll let you break the news, you know? I think that it's questionable. I think that NFL journalism, with the way Twitter works now, is always about, I got to get this out first so the most people see it and get the retweets on this one. So I get the likes, so I get the followers, so people follow me for news. And I think we got to take a step back here and realize that we're reporting on people's lives. And in this case, we're reporting on the greatest player to ever play in the NFL ending his career. Let's maybe hold off on that tweet button for a second. Let's hold off on that report breaking until either Brady confirms it or you reach out to Brady and he's like, yeah, and he lets you know when you can publish that because he is the greatest of all time and deserves that amount of respect. I get it if it's like a guy who isn't going to have like a big, huge, crazy retirement, like played as a backup his last few seasons and is like, okay, I'm leaving the NFL, and the report comes out that way. We're talking about Tom Brady here. This press conference, this retirement press conference, this is Jordan level happenings. There needs to be more journalistic integrity. Integrity is the word I am looking for in reports like this. And again, let the player decide when he wants it reported in the way he wants it reported. We're talking about the greatest of all time here, Tom Brady. It's ridiculous. It astounds me. It flabbergasts me. I don't know how things like this happen where there's Tom Brady is retiring. CNN's reporting on it. And then they're like, wait, hold up. He might not be. Slow down. Like, we can't have this type of disaccreditation in the football community from our highest level of reporters. Our highest level of reporters need to be giving us the factual information when it is supposed to be received and not jumping the gun on any reports that may or may not be true. It's tiring. There's enough stuff floating around out there. We don't need the main NFL insiders getting stories wrong, this big of stories, at this level, at this rate. It's ridiculous.
And even when I'm looking for news, like Sean will tell me about, a game might be postponed because Sean works for NETV, and he's got to know that stuff because they'll be out. They're the ones that broadcast the games. So even when he says like, "Hey, I'm hearing that this game may be gone," I'm like, "All right, can you go get 2-3 other people like your bosses to say, yeah, this game is off?" And when he says, "Yeah, they said this game is off," then I'm like, okay, now I can report that. Sean, while I don't think he has no reason to not be a credible source, you still got to get those 2, 3, 4 people that are trustworthy enough to say, okay, yes, this game is off. I can confidently report that this game is off. And so that's what I do. If Adam Schefter just heard one person in Brady's camp saying, yeah, he's retiring, that that could just been a plan from Brady's camp to plant those seeds to be like, okay, they all thought I was leaving, but here I am going to be on this revenge tour, and y'all can thank Adam Schefter for that. So maybe it's bold. It could be very bold strategy from Tom Brady, or it just could have just been a complete mental lapse from Adam Schefter once again. And this is a guy that, we sort of look at and admire. We follow all of his, we got him on notifications on Twitter, waiting to see what he reports. But now I'm like, do I really want to keep track of this guy? Is he really a credible source anymore? He's like the top NFL guy, but I can't really depend on him anymore, especially if he botched something like this. But in relation to New England news, Sean, I would let you give your obituary for Tom Brady, but he's not retiring yet, so there's really no reason to get sentimental yet. But a reason to start writing obituaries would be for the Las Vegas Raiders. What's there not to be said about the decisions made by owner Mark Davis? From Rich Bisaccia, they bring in Josh McDaniels. And we all know what Josh McDaniels' amazing last head coaching job was with in the Denver Broncos. going 8-8 in 2009. And then what happened near after? The Broncos started the season 3-9, and he was fired in the mid-season. Because like what every NFL team tries to do now is, hey, we can become the Patriots if we just bring in the Patriots personnel. Because that worked so fantastically with the Detroit Lions and Matt Patricia. So what do the Raiders do? Hey, Matt Patricia's tenure went swimmingly in Detroit. Let's bring in another another New England coordinator to solve the problems. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. It's like this franchise reels me in, and then they say, okay, we're going to push you away with these hires. Sean, why can't the Raiders learn? Why can't the rest of the league learn that the Patriots are Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, not anybody else? The only way you can pull off the Patriot formula is having Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Nobody else can bring that in. Why can't teams learn this? Josh McDaniels is a step back for the Raiders, in my opinion.
I'm gonna be a very obnoxious diehard Patriots fan here for a second. It gives me the greatest of pleasures, to see all of these teams, even the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, try to imitate the Patriots. Because you know what? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I cannot tell you, as a Patriots fan, how awesome it is to see teams to this day trying to imitate the Patriots. It makes me so happy as a Patriot. It makes me so happy because it doesn't work. The only team that has been able to win, who has been able to be the Patriots, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they have Tom Brady. That's the only team that has been able to be the Patriots because they have Tom Brady. Like, what more do you want me to say? Like, the Detroit Lions tried to take our entire coaching staff. Oh, and remember how they gave Trey Flowers $90 million? Oh, I laughed so hard because I knew he was going to be an epic bust. And guess what? He was an epic bust for the Detroit Lions. It's so beautiful. Now, let's get serious here for a second. You see so many teams try to imitate the Patriots by taking all their assistant coaches. The biggest example I point to is not all these different coaches. I point to Notre Dame. Notre Dame hired Charlie Weis in the mid-2000s after Charlie Weis won a couple Super Bowls with the Patriots. And we thought, oh, yeah, we're going to be a college football powerhouse. We're going to beat USC every single year. We're going to be on top. Stop. Just stop. Okay? Like,
Greatest play ever, the Bush push.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Michael in shambles right now. USC hater. Michael in shambles right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lincoln Riley. Oh, that's also beautiful. But that's another segment. But Charlie Weis didn't work at Notre Dame because, let's be real, the Patriots offense wasn't even a top 10 offense. Brady didn't ascend to GOAT status until 2007 because before 2007, the Patriots didn't really have a true number one wide receiver. And not to mention, Charlie Weis was arguably holding back Tom Brady. Yes, I will. Trust me, I watched the Patriots with Charlie Weis as our offensive coordinator. I think Charlie Weis, in some ways, okay, Deion Branch was solid, but he's not a true number one receiver. Let's hold the brakes there, Michael. But I truly believe that in some ways Charlie Weis held back Tom Brady. But then when Tom Brady got Josh McDaniels in 2007, suddenly that's when Tom Brady became GOAT status, and from there, he's the greatest football player to ever live. So let's talk about Josh McDaniels, because that's the whole point of this. How does Josh McDaniels relate to this whole spiel that I've been on? Well, Josh McDaniels coached the Broncos, and you talked about his tenure. Started 6-0 with the Broncos, even beat the Patriots in 2009. Oh, it's horrible. I hate that. That game still upsets me to this day because, yeah, the Broncos beat the Patriots in brown and yellow uniforms. It's terrible. But Josh McDaniels, it was a whole mess. Honestly, just go look up and read articles because it was a mess. I could go 15 minutes on how much of a mess that was, but bad leadership. But that was 12 years ago, and Wes Welker joined the Patriots in 2007. And having Randy Moss, there were two number one wide receivers on the team. Oh yeah, Randy Moss came from the Raiders. So Josh McDaniels hasn't been a head coach in 12 years. He hasn't been a head coach in 12 years. And for the last decade, he has been the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. And obviously, he has won 3 Super Bowls as the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. But jeez, don't teams learn? Because Josh McDaniels is great, but how good has the Patriots offense really been the last couple of years without Tom Brady? Well, remember Tom Brady's last year in 2019? That was a rough season to watch for anybody, just because the Patriots were not a very watchable team. The thing about the Patriots since really 2017, also, because even 2018, the Patriots offense had their struggles. The only time the Patriots offense was really clicking in 2018 was the playoffs somehow. Josh McDaniels was built by Tom Brady, and being without Tom Brady, I just don't think he's that guy. So I'm sorry, Cameron. I don't think that
I just realized I've made a grave mistake.
What?
Do we see the title to the video?
I do not see the title. What's the title?
Y'all can't see it.
Yes, yeah.
I wrote January 31st, 2021.
Oof. I mean, hey,
I will get that change.
In your defense, let's be real. In school, when you start the spring semester, and you come back from winter break, and you're writing that day at the on your heading, we've all done the wrong year. We've had to scribble that out and put the year back in. So it happens, man. It happens.
Are we sure it's not like 2019? I've forgotten what year it is.
Well, it feels like 2004 again, being a Raider fan now. Yeah, Michael, how long can I really stick this through with Josh McDaniels?
Well, I, for one, am interested to see how he does as a head coach this time around. Because you'd have to think 12 years is a long time. Yeah, you can say that the Patriots offense, the last 2-ish years of Tom Brady's tenure, was not explosive, you can say. But again, 2019 didn't really have any talent in the receiver corps besides Julian Edelman. But I, for one, am curious to see how Josh McDaniels does this time around as a head coach, because you have to think that in 12 years, Josh McDaniels has learned that you can't put on a Belichick shtick like a lot of Belichick assistants do when they leave the nest, like say Matt Patricia or something like that, because that's what Josh McDaniels tried to do when he went to Denver in 2009. He tried to be Belichick, and it started out okay, but nobody is Belichick except Belichick. That's not, and Belichick's being authentic because that's his authentic self. That's who he is. His assistants coming out of the coaching tree and putting on the Belichick's shtick is not an authentic way to lead people. But do I think this is going to work out? I don't know. But am I curious to see how it goes with him finally taking another head coaching job? Yeah, Joe Judge is another great example. Sean. But am I curious to see how it goes after, ditching the Colts when it looked like he was going to go be the head coach there, or just all the his name would coming up in head coaching hiring cycles every year for the past decade. I'm curious to see now that he's finally a head coach again, what that's going to look like. And I'm also curious to see what the Raiders are going to do at quarterback. Are they going to keep Derek Carr, and is Derek Carr going to be Josh McDaniels' new project, or are they going to get somebody else? Because it's not like the draft class is it's not a great quarterback class, and 2, it's not like the Raiders have a high pick. But I don't know. I'm kind of just curious to see where this all goes.
Yeah, of course you guys are, because you get to celebrate in the pain of your show host Cameron Richardson, right? It's a great time to be a to be a Raider hater, right? Right, Evan? Chargers
honestly,
fans must be celebrating everywhere right now.
I have no beef with the Raiders.
Nah, I actually kind of like the Josh McDaniels hire. I think I've been kind of waiting for this one the last couple of years. I mean, ever since that, like Michael brought up the Colts one, where he was literally on the plane to Indianapolis and turned it around to New England to retain his position as offensive coordinator. Like, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, I just think he's had a lot of head coaching interviews and opportunities. He's been given a lot of chance to think about this over the past few years, and now that it's finally happening, because it's one of the guys that's been talked about for maybe longer than some of the first year guys' names who are popping up this year for the coaching carousel, I think that there could be a little bit of hope for Raiders, and that he's ready and he knows the way that he wants to guide this team, and he knows the way he wants to shepherd it along, and there could be hope. And honestly, if Josh McDaniels comes in and instills an offense that brings Derek Carr to that next level next season and turns him from a turnover machine into a choke field goal
I would
three-point
call Derek
god.
Carr more of a field goal machine than I would a turnover machine.
Not so much a turnover machine. He's not the most sloppy with the ball.
3-point god Derek Carr.
3-point god Derek Carr. I think if he's able to turn that into touchdown god Derek Carr next season, I think that maybe you ought to be choking your words a little bit right now, Cam, because I think this could bring some good stuff.
The saving grace for the Raiders this offseason would be signing Devontae Adams. Then it's like, okay, there's some interest there. But to have no number one and to have Josh McDaniels as your head coach is not a formula for getting back to the playoffs.
How would you feel about a rookie receiver, though? Like, there's free agents. Raiders need an
established guy at receiver, not someone they need to build again.
Mike Williams?
Are we not calling...
Keep taking Chargers receivers?
Are we not calling Hunter Renfrow a number one receiver?
Yeah, wait, who was that again, Michael? Who would you say beforehand?
Hunter Renfrow. We're not calling him a number one receiver.
He's not a number one. It's nice to have him as a good slot and a good dependable route runner, but the man should not have. He's not a 115, receptions type of dude per season. He's not Cooper Kupp. He's not Devontae Adams. The Raiders need that number one guy.
Zay Jones, wide receiver one ?
I love Zay Jones too, but not a number one. Oh boy, yeah.
Wasn't there this guy named Amari Cooper who could have been a really good number one for the Raiders at one point? I think he could have really been a target and a weapon for this team in this playoff run.
He was.
Charger legend Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, the Raiders had Tyrell Williams at one point. Let's not to mention they just allowed Nelson Aguilar to walk after he had a great season with the Raiders. Let's not forget that John Gruden's, somewhat sus butt decided to get rid of Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Trent Brown to absolutely set fire to the offensive line. And we saw what happened. Alex Leatherwood happened, and it was a total nightmare. All right. We're getting to the end of the show. I asked everyone on Instagram and Twitter last night what team they most closely associated me with. And people, it's a close battle between the Raiders and Dodgers. Dodgers won the Twitter one, although there wasn't a large sample size. Pretty hefty sample size on Instagram where 12 people voted for the Raiders and 10 voted for the Dodgers. 4 voted for the Kings and only 1 voted for the Clippers, which kind of surprises me to an extent. But gentlemen, what do you think? When you think of me, what's the first team that comes to mind?
Well, I've lived with you as a roommate for 2 years, so I think if anybody can answer this question, it's me. And trust me, there's only one team I associate you with, and that's the Dodgers. That was the easiest question ever. It's the Dodgers. You talk about the Dodgers more than any team by a massive margin. By a massive margin. You get the most emotional during Dodger games. Yes, I do see that Man City banner as well. That would be my number 2 just because of a certain
Over the
2019.
Raiders?
Yes, because of
Honestly?
because of 2019 is why I associate Man City with you. Because every single time we had a production meeting for our show, our first show together, you always wore that Raheem Sterling jersey. Every single time, it was purple too. But no, the most emotional
I still
you
have
get
it.
the most emotional you get during a sports game is not the Raiders. It's definitely not the Clippers. Like I sometimes forget you're a Clipper fan. It is not the Kings. It is the Dodgers. The I have never seen a human being on this planet that gets more emotional during a sports game than you for Dodger playoff games. It is it is something else. And I also was there when the Dodgers won the World Series last year. Back in 2020. It's now 2022. So yes, that's why it's the Dodgers. You're the most obsessive Dodger fan I think I'll ever meet, and that's saying a lot. So there's the answer.
Well, in the poll, both Michael and Evan voted the Raiders.
Mhm.
I had to say Raiders because while I agree with Sean, where you do get more emotional and more worked up and more frustrated quicker when you're watching a Dodgers game. You don't like the Dodgers. You hate the Dodgers. You talk so much crap on the Dodgers. Like, there is so much anger and angst in your interaction with the Dodgers. When it comes down to it, you like the Raiders more than you like the Dodgers. And so that's why I associate them with you more, because I just see your pain tweet with you in the Raiders polo. Like, And so I mean, as much as you get invested with the Dodgers and get into it and are like angry and pissed off about stuff they do, with the Raiders, you like them more and you're willing to celebrate them more when they do good. The Dodgers never do anything good for you. The Dodgers win the World Series and it's the Mickey Mouse.
But
It's
it's
true.
only the Dodgers that would win a World Series, given all the talent they've had from 2013 until now. That's the only one, and they shortened 60-game season where they couldn't even play a playoff game in front of their home fans.
I don't care.
It's
You
the
won a ring.
Only
You
the
won a
Dodger
ring.
way.
My team hasn't made the
If the
playoffs
Raiders
in
won,
21
you'd be
years.
Hey, I got 3 people yelling at me. What's going on here?
You won
One
a
person
ring,
at
Cameron
one
Richardson.
person at a time.
Cameron, my baseball team, the Seattle Mariners, haven't made a postseason since 2001, and yet you're complaining about the Dodgers. I don't want to hear it.
Look at this. Look at this. That's what I want to. That's what I want to do. We're men in blacking the 2020 MLB season now.
What, you
I've
want
had
to
to-
read that? You shouldn't be forgetting that.
I have had to suffer in the same division as your baseball team for
You
our
beat
entire
us in the
existence.
playoffs. You beat us in the
Evan
playoffs that
knows
year
my
and killed me. I cried for hours the night the Dodgers
Okay,
beat the Padres.
all
and
right,
that Nick
all
Muller
right.
season.
Hold on. At least, all right. Look, the D-backs winning in 2001 was satisfying for D-backs fans because they did it in the traditional playoff form, and they did it against the Empire and the New York Yankees. The Dodgers didn't play a and that's mentioned. The D-backs did it inside Chase Field. The Dodgers won a World Series
That's Bank
in
One Ballpark
Texas.
to you.
In Texas. That's what it's like. It's satisfying to have the ring, but the way they did it, the path to get there was highly unsatisfying to not do it at your home. To not play a single game in your home stadium. The Padres had more games at Dodger Stadium in the playoffs than the Dodgers did. The Astros had more playoff games at Dodger Stadium than the Dodgers did. Do we understand just how weirdly dystopian that playoff was? That's why I find it so unsatisfying, because we didn't play in front of our fans, and they had to go win it in Texas, of all places, the worst state of 2020, Texas.
Hold up, what?
The worst state of 2020, and you know why, Sean.
Oh, fair enough.
All right,
My bad.
let's end this, because I want to talk about something fun that kind of broke my heart, actually, this weekend. And while it is scripted entertainment, I am still highly entertained by it. Yeah, I love the Royal Rumble every year. It's one of the few things now that can actually satisfy me with the WWE now, and Vince McMahon just complete, descent into the deep depths of hell that he's going to be in when he eventually passes on. It's not like the WWE some podunk, off-brand pro wrestling company. This is like top brand in the entire world, like of anything, sports, entertainment, news, politics, whatever. WWE is a top brand. Yet somehow we have Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey getting pushed by the WWE strictly due to the fact that, one, they gut their roster almost every 6 months. Just every time I get news from Fightful, it's always this wrestler's release, and then it's another 15 releases after that. Oh, and not to mention, they're not developing any stars as well. There's a couple under their NXT brand, but even their own the WWE is sabotaging their own NXT brand, an NXT brand that when it was black and gold is fantastic. Now it's a bunch of vomit colors just everywhere to be like, oh, let's get 12-year-olds to watch this, and it's gone completely hayward. Now there are a couple stars. I do like Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes quite a lot. They are the future of WWE when they eventually get brought up, but I bet you they'll get buried somehow and WWE will botch them. But the Royal Rumble was full of both of men's and women's. It was just full of superstars getting pulled out of their butts, coming back, getting a fat paycheck, and leaving within 2 minutes. The best spots in the men's Rumble came from non-superstars Johnny Knoxville and Bad Bunny. Yes, 30 people can enter this Royal Rumble. The 2 best spots are from Johnny Knoxville and Bad Bunny. In case you wanted to know what the state of the WWE is. Not this off-brand company that just came out of nowhere. No, the brand of pro wrestling and one of the biggest, most recognizable company names in the entire world. Can't develop their own stars within and have to rely on old reliables year in and year out. Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey were the Royal Rumble winners. 2 people that don't need a push to even get to WrestleMania. They don't need Royal Rumble wins to get to WrestleMania. Yes, Pat McAfee is fantastic on commentary. One of the few things I can actually enjoy about the WWE. But my God, if anybody wants to speak in on this, I don't understand why WWE and Vince McMahon are so honed in on going to old reliable Brock Lesnar and, bringing back Ronda Rousey to go win the Royal Rumble when she hasn't been a part of the wrestling scene in about 3-4 years. Like, somebody figure out why. Somebody tell me why the WWE can't get anything right anymore.
I just think that the WWE's been slow. I feel like they've been in a consistent decline since about 2011, 12, 13. Like, the WWE hasn't been the same since the retirement of their Attitude Era stars. Like, they haven't been able to produce that type of entertainers aside from Roman Reigns, the one and only, since then. So I think it's really hard, and I think Vince McMahon's kind of feeling the pressure now where he realizes he's struggling to create personalities and characters in the current environment of the world that really stick and get people to sink their teeth into wrestling and for all the storylines that can be. I think WWE's lost their step, and so Vince McMahon's just kind of throwing every dart at the board at this point to try and figure out what can work to drive up ratings and viewership, especially because I think other platforms like AEW are doing a much better job at developing their talent and actually having names grow out of AEW. I think WWE is relying on too many celebrity tacky ploys. They brought as much as I love Pat McAfee, the WWE, a real organization, brought him in as a wrestler for almost a year's worth of storylines, which fed NXT and the Adam Cole storyline for almost a full year, which is crazy. This is what they're relying on for their entertainment at this point. And until they can get people and personalities in the business that trust the brand and don't feel like they're going to be released after 3 bad months. Like, they don't feel like they're constantly in danger of losing their contract and job, because I mean, I'm not 100% all the UFC's technicalities, but I'm pretty sure their fighter contracts don't offer the fighters a lot of protections in situations where they're let go from the roster. So I think the WWE needs to do more to ensure that they can get top talent by providing good fighter contracts and stop cutting people just in bunches and bunches. It doesn't look good for the brand and business, and it's hard to attract top level talent when you're kicking off people who maybe are deserving, or probably deserving, of a spot in professional wrestling. I think WWE needs to figure out their business practices going forward. I think they're kind of in a dark ages right now, and they're either going to fold out of this eventually and just not be able to put on the fights anymore because they don't have the talent to do so, or people don't care enough to do
Vince
so because
McMahon,
they
please
just
sell the
rely on
company.
celebrities, or they're going to have to find a way to grow out of this.
Sell the company, Vince. Please. Need new leadership. Desperately. We didn't appreciate John Cena in pro wrestling until he was gone. And now he's killing it with the Peacemaker show. I've only watched 2 episodes of it. No, I've watched 2 episodes of it, and it's hilarious. John Cena is one hell of a comedic actor. I love seeing him on. He's already better than The Rock, in my opinion. The Rock plays The Rock in every movie. There's no difference in character. From the game plan to Jumanji, The Rock is the same person. I love The Rock. I love his personality, but The Rock is the same person. John Cena's been in a lot of movies, but it always seems like he always nails it with each role. The Rock is The Rock. It's yeah. I mean, Dave Bautista too, also on fire. I wouldn't mind like a triple team buddy movie in a way. That would do bank. Bautista, John Cena, and The Rock all leading in the same film. Sean, Michael, anything to add on about the world of WWE before we head out of here?
Well, the only thing I really got to add is when I watched the 2020 Royal Rumble, the main thing I noticed was that the WWE is investing all of their imagery and promotion onto Roman Reigns, which yikes. Like but the thing
This guy got
thing-
booed out of the Royal Rumbles. I mean, got booed out of his match Saturday. Seth Rollins stole the show with bringing back the Shield theme and the Shield gear and all that. It was the best moment of the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Roman Reigns is not very charismatic, to say the least. It just seems like he either takes himself too seriously or does not want to be there. I can't figure out which one it is. So the fact that is your most marketable and face of your company, something is very wrong with that. That's all I really got to add. But that's just something that I haven't helped but notice the last couple years, that you're investing in Roman Reigns, who has the charisma of the doorknob that I'm looking at right now. That's a problem.
Any final words, Michael?
I think I just kind of echo what Evan said, where you gotta give people more security so they know they're not just going to get cut after a couple months, and just like these mass releases is really, it's really all I've got to add. You gotta give people that sense of security, that sense of normalcy, so they don't. So just for the health of the brand, you have to give people that.
If I can pull it up real quick so we can get out of here. We need our sound cue, gentlemen. We need our sound cue. There it is. That'll do it for this
Evan wants to
edition.
dance.
That'll do it for this edition of the Rich Report. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure to follow all of our social medias in the description on YouTube, because you should be watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you as well. We're on Twitter. But to really subscribe to the site and to follow us on social media, go to the YouTube. The description is there. They're all linked there. For Michael, Evan, Sean, I am Cameron Richardson, and we will see y'all on Wednesday to talk about the Clash. We won't have a show Friday because Shawn Michael and Brendan Martin and myself will all be heading out to Los Angeles to go to Coliseum. It'll be Sean's first time seeing the LA Coliseum. It's going to be one heck of a weekend. We will see y'all. Have a great rest of your day.